Greetings and welcome. You're tuned into TMH's Daily English News. The headlines for today: Tigrayans who entered the concentration camps in Afar region were said to be in life-threatening conditions. The Sudanese army shells as their continued dispute over border with Ethiopia, and the UN chief urges efforts to defuse the tensions that are currently taking place between Sudan and Ethiopia, again over their border disputes. As we move on to our main updates today, Tigrayans who entered the concentration camps in Afar are said to be in life-threatening conditions, and according to the Voice of America, 3 politicians have asked the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission to monitor human rights within the country and the situations of Tigrayans specifically that were forced entry in concentration camps in the Afar region and ensure their human rights respected as well. VOA did not disclose the identity of these 3 politicians, and the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, on its part, did disclose that the Tigrayans who entered the concentration camps in Samara, Afar, are in extreme conditions that might threaten their lives as well. The commission said it will be the outcome of its monitoring, making public the future, and called on pertinent bodies to address these issues urgently as well. Tigrayan diaspora throughout the world are protesting in more than 600 days of the atrocities against the people of Tigray in the northern region of Ethiopia. In North Texas, dozens of demonstrators marched downtown Dallas on Tuesday to raise awareness of what's happening in northern part of Eastern African countries. And North Texas, who has ties to the area, are calling for more awareness and action to end the humanitarian crisis, and hundreds of thousands of people's lives have been killed in this war thus far. The conflict is rooted in complicated history that goes back generations, and the North Texans, who have family in Tigray, said that they have been deeply affected by this ongoing war. You know what, it is not complicated, said a protester. Genocide is never good. Rape is not good, said Danny Hadera, one of the organizers of this same protest. He and other demonstrators marched throughout downtown Dallas on Tuesday while donning the regional flag of Tigray. Hadera estimates that about 5,000 people with the ties to the Tigrayan region live in North Texas, and the demonstrators did call for multiple actions, including an immediate end to the military conflict in the region, as well as the restoration of telecommunication, electricity, banking, and transportation services as well. Dani Hadera and members of the Tigrayan community and the Mutual Assistance Association of Dallas have organized similar protests since the war broke out in 2020, and Tuesday's protest was to highlight the atrocities that have been reported during the 600 days of the conflict in the region, and its call for the World Bank to stop its financial assistance to Ethiopia, as Hadera said while amongst his protesters. Electronic communication has been blocked off completely, and travel to Tigray has also been restricted, choking off humanitarian aid into the region. And the demonstrators also said multiple people at Tuesday's event that they are dark about the well-being of their friends and family. Dallas resident Salam Ayala said that she has not been able to communicate with her parents nor her sisters who live in the Tigray region since the war broke out in 2020 of November. We just want to know if they're alive or not, she said. Burhana Alamayo, who lives in Richardson, said many of his family members, including his siblings and cousins, currently live in Tigray, and the grief of not knowing if his family is doing or how they're doing and taking a heavy toll on his mental health. As he said, he spends many hours on social media hoping that someone will message him and to just tell him how his family is doing. You don't enjoy going out because you feel guilty, you know what I mean, he said, and when I'm eating, I think about them not eating, and I feel even more guilty. As we move on to our next update, Sudan and their army have shelled out a dispute along the border of Ethiopia. An Ethiopian official said Sudan's armed forces fired heavy artillery during clashes in a disputed eastern region bordering Ethiopia, the largest salvo and long-running feud over their shared border. Sudanese military sources, who requested anonymity as they were not authorized to talk to the press, said that on Tuesday, Sudan was able to capture Jabal al-Alban, an area near the contested border, following an artillery barrage and an airstrike, and the two local residents said the Sudanese army had gained control of the area and had destroyed a military base there as well. It was unclear if the base belonged to the Ethiopian army or the allied militia, but on Monday, Ethiopia did deny Sudan's accusation that its army had captured and executed 7 Sudanese soldiers and civilians, and insisted blaming the killings on a local militia instead. In related development, the UN chief urges efforts to defuse this ongoing tension between Sudan and Ethiopia, and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres made his call for the de-escalation in a message sent on Tuesday through his spokesperson, Stéphane Dujarric. Let's take a listen.
The Secretary General is deeply concerned about the renewed clashes between Sudan and Ethiopia along their disputed border that took place on June 22nd and reportedly resulted in the deaths of 7 Sudanese soldiers and 1 civilian. He urges the two countries to take concrete steps to diffuse tension and to peacefully resolve their differences over the Al Fashaga border area. The Secretary General expresses his condolences to the families.
As we move on to our final update for today, AU has urged restraint over escalating Ethiopian-Sudan, calling for a dialogue amongst the two countries. The head of the African Union Commission voiced his concern on Wednesday over escalating military tensions between Ethiopia and Sudan. The comments by Musa Faki Mahamat following claims that Khartoum and the Ethiopian army had executed 7 Sudanese soldiers and a civilian in an incident in a volatile border region last week, and the allegations were in fact denied by the capital Abiy Ahmed and his government himself. The AU indicated in a statement that Faki is following with deep concern the escalating military tensions between Ethiopia and Sudan, and added that deeply regretted the loss of life at their common border. The chairperson appeals for complete refrain from any military action, and whatever its origin, calls for dialogue between the two brotherly countries to solve any dispute, as he said in the statement. Sudan went straight to the UN Security Council with a complaint bypassing the continental origin of the African Union, and the move escalates the international standing of the dispute, which has become more volatile since the incident took place. That concludes our news for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.